Next episode of the Datsun build. In this episode, I'm not really going to be building anything. I'm just going to kind of go over the things I've done and what's next. So in the last episode, we got the tubular front welded in. So far since then, I've cut a massive hole in the firewall in the transmission tunnel. Before I cut this, the engine was about maybe 4 inches off the firewall, and it was too far forward. Now the front of the engine is only like, it's like 3 inches in front of the strut tower versus like 7 inches. So that's weight distribution feels quite a bit better in my mind than it was before. So I just chopped out a nice chunk. It's snug, but it'll work. And then I'm just going to, put sheet metal and weld it up. I mapped out the roll cage. So this is where the plate's going to end. So that's going to go in there. It's going to be a flat piece out to like here. So this will all be flat. I'm going to weld one of these to this, and then I'm going to weld one of these like corner pieces onto it, and then a flat piece there. And then this will be, another piece will be flat on top of all of that to make it nice and square. And then that's the main hoop. We'll connect to that. Do the same thing to the other side. And then I've got to cap off the strut towers. So a big piece is going to go on top of that, both sides. And then for the front, the plate is like right around here. I haven't figured it out yet. I have to get the main hoop in, tack welded in, and then the upper hoop tack welded in to know exactly where that plate's going to be. So these will go in first. Those are easy. That kind of like starts it all. Those are easy. And then this will be after I put kind of the stuff back there tack welded on. Another thing I worked on is this area. There was some rot here, and it's a very strange area to repair rot. So I cut the whole thing out, and I did 2 pieces of sheet metal. This is 16 gauge. I don't know. It's the thickness of the metal that Datsun used for all the reinforcement panels. So it's nice and thick. It's thicker than this sheet metal. But yeah, it's welded here. And on the back side, it's welded here. So the top half is welded inside, and the bottom half is welded in here. And then the center is welded in different areas. But yeah, so it's nice and secure, super sturdy. And then I will put some panel bond around it and encapsulate it so that no water gets in. It's in a weird spot because water gets in here, and then water funnels through these little holes, and then the water comes down through that, and then it goes out through here and out through here. Yeah, so water needs to be able to escape. I mapped out, I got to cut a hole here because the transmission doesn't line up perfectly. I thought it was going to, but it doesn't. So I got to cut this area out so that there's a nice hole for the shifter and everything. These markings, I got to cut a rectangle out here like this and just kind of box this out a little bit because there's a sensor on the transmission that's making contact with a firewall, like it's literally resting on it right now. And the same thing here, there's another sensor and it's resting on here. You can kind of see it in there. So I need to cut this open and then box it out so it's just a little thicker and won't make contact all the time while I drive. I feel like I did more stuff. Oh, I 3D printed some stuff. So this is a brake duct like connector, hose connector. So it'll connect to a 2.5 inch like flexible tube. This goes here. All right, so it's bolted in with ugly bolts, but it'll do the trick for now. So it's flush to all this stuff and connects here, and then this will go to the brake duct here. So it looks like on the front. These are scan markers. I had to 3D scan the headlight bucket because I made an insert. So this is my first test print, so the fitment's not like perfect. It needs to come out a little bit more here and cover up that hole and be a little bit more flush. This area is all nice. It just needs some work up here. So the thought process is it's all open. So you can see the brake duct tubing. This is all open, so air goes through there. Air goes through here. This will be a blinker. So there's a little hole there for the wire. The blinker is going to go there. And then there's going to be some like kind of like projector bulbs that will get mounted on top of here. I'm not sure if I'm going to do 1 or 2, but they'll sit right here, and then the air will flow past them through that channel. So you can see on the back, it's all open. It's funny, I've been trying to redesign the Datsun headlight buckets for a long time. I've done a lot of iterations, but I've always been trying to design the whole thing rather than an insert. And I kind of like really like this. And it's easy, it just like mounts right on top of it. Use some like silicone adhesive, panel bond type stuff. And then it'll mount really nicely in there. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's definitely a new take on the Datsun headlight that I haven't seen before. So I 3D modeled this in 3ds Max, this piece, because there's a lot of complex curves. It's really hard to make something like this in Fusion 360 or a CAD/CAM software like SolidWorks. This piece was designed in Fusion 360 because it's not complex curves. It's literally just like a flat piece and then a 45-degree angle and then you know, an extrusion. So that piece took me like 10 minutes to make, but this piece took me like hours of getting it as close to a fit to this as possible, and it's still not perfect. And for material, both are printed in PLA for right now. I do all prototyping in PLA just because it's easy and it's cheap and it's fast. I usually don't have any issues printing a PLA. It comes out like silky smooth every time. It's just super, super easy to print with, and it's great for prototyping because if there's any issues with PLA, you're going to have a ton of issues with any of the kind of like engineering grade filaments. So here's a PLA, and it prints like this, and it perfectly fits in my Bamboo printer. I got these Black Friday sale, I think last year. Literally is maxed out. So I think it has like 1 or 2 millimeters above this to print more. So perfectly prints in like a small shop sized 3D printer. So yeah, that's that. Pretty cool. The back piece looks great. It fits great, mounts up great. So that piece is done, and I will print it in ASA. ASA is the engineering grade filament that I'm going to be using for all the exterior, I mean, any 3D printed parts that I'm going to be using on this car will be ASA in the finished print because it's super heat resistant, it's strong, it shouldn't warp outside in the sun. Okay, what else did I do? Oh, I did some testing on this panel. So this is primer, but the black is, it's an encapsulator. It's called CoreSeal. I've never used it before. There's crazy good reviews on Amazon about it, so I gave it a shot. It's super cheap. It's water-based, and it has like no VOCs. So you can do it in your garage with a paintbrush and not worry about inhaling awful fumes. And then I just sanded it and put a little bit of like automotive filler primer on top, and it came out pretty good. I didn't just wipe this right on top of rust. So the instructions say you have to get any loose debris off. You got to scrub it down with 200 grit sandpaper, just like get everything nice and smooth. Clean it off with a water-based degreaser. Let it dry fully. And once it's dry, you just literally brush it on with a brush. And this is like kind of like the finish. You can see it here. So you can see the brush strokes. What else? I'm out of breath. I don't know why I'm out of breath. Yeah, this is the fitment of the engine right now. The only thing that I think I messed up with this whole car so far, which is surprising because I've done a lot of stuff and I don't think I've messed up anything yet, is I did not account for a radiator when I put the tubular front in. So yeah, the radiator's not going to fit there. So the radiator has to go on this side, which I feel like radiators are always on the inside of the radiator support. But yeah, it's got to go on the outside. It's going to have to go here. And I have to find one that is super small. Like, I need it to be big because the Viper motor is huge, but I need it to be like short and like wide and like stocky. You know, it's got to be like thick. It's a weird area. I don't know. I might have to like custom make one or something. Haven't figured it out yet. But also the coolant hose, the upper hose and the lower hose, they're all weird. Like it, it like pops up. So I got to run a hose that goes like, or I'm just going to like cut this and then turn this upside down and weld it back on, so that way it's pointing down. I just want to mess with like the flow of the water into the engine, if you know what I mean. I don't know if that matters. It probably won't matter. And then, yeah, this one's also a weird place because it's like right in the freaking middle of the engine and it needs to go to the bottom of the radiator. I don't know. That stuff's for a later date. And I figured out the exhaust. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to like this, but there's no space for an exhaust. There's space on that side. On that side, you could do something cool. You could have it go out the, the fender, exit like right through the fender, because there's nothing over there, I took the battery tray out. The battery's going to be inside. So, yeah, I was thinking the exhaust would go like there and go out the fender and like a really cool fender exit. But on this side, you have the steering rack and then like the steering stuff and the brake master cylinder and all this stuff. So you can't go here. You don't want, even if you could fit it, you're not going to want the exhaust so close to, brake fluid, right? I mean, at least that's what I was thinking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an exhaust manifold that goes forward. So it's going to go here and it's going to exit through here. I haven't figured it out quite yet. It should work. I actually ordered SRT10 RAM intakes. The SRT10 RAM, the exhaust went out the back. On the Viper motors, the exhaust went out the side. So the exhaust manifold's right here, the stock one. So you see it like mounts up to the engine, literally right out the side. And the side ends right here on this frame rail. So it's impossible for me to do anything with it. I mean, I could modify it, but still, it would just be really hard to run an exhaust properly with how tight everything is. I mean, you can see just how tight the engine is in there. I mean, this is a tiny car. It's freaking so small, and this engine is gigantic. So exhaust is going to run out the front. I haven't figured out exactly how, but it's going to go out the front and through the front valence, the front bumper type area. Just a lot of little stuff. I patched some engine holes because I had a cut, and they were like the line that I was cutting had holes. Like I was going to go right through a hole. So I had to like patch a couple of those. And yeah, I've been in here working on this car every single day for like at least a week or two straight. Doesn't seem like I got a lot done, but I feel like I got a ton. There's so much planning that goes into all this and so many parts that I had to find, like even just figuring out where that panel is going to go. And like, I've never done a roll cage before, so I don't know how these work. So I had to like research it. And like, I was originally just going to put like a square right on top of here and weld it to this. And then I read online that you don't want to just have this thick metal, because this thing is thick. It's like 3 mils, 4 mils. It's freaking thick. So what I was going to do is I was going to box it out and weld it like this and then have the top on. But what happens in a rollover is the car flips over. All the weight gets put onto the roll cage. The main hoop has so much stress on it. The main hoop then pushes onto the ground here. And what happens is those thick 3 millimeter plates, they just rip right through the ground. And then now you have a whole car crushing on top of you and compressing you between a roll cage. So I don't want to, in case I, something happens when this thing decides to do something crazy. Yeah, I think that's it. Basically the gist of where I am right now and what's going on next. See you in the next one.